No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Hello, W4CY listeners. My name is Nitzan Mosery, and I am the Traveling Investor. This is where you're going to learn how to master your mind, body, and wallet. I'm an entrepreneur, coach, and investor, and I've spent my life studying and following the habits and mindsets of highly successful people. With that knowledge, I've created a lifestyle business where I live life on my own terms. I'm on a mission to share my knowledge to help you live life on your terms. I'm Nitzan Mosery, the Traveling Investor, and thank you for joining me as we dive into real, raw, authentic, and inspiring conversations with people from around the globe who are making an impact.
What's happening, travelers? Nitzan Mosery here. Welcome to Traveling Investor, and I got Tom Zames, philosopher extraordinaire, and check out where we are, man.
Where are we?
We're in Wyoming, man. We're by the Grand Tetons National Park.
Feels good, man. I've never been in
Wyoming. Look at those mountains, man. And my family and I, we hiked this way. We hiked up this mountain all the way up there. We took a boat from here that went all the way there, and it was pretty awesome, man. It was amazing.
Sweet. Love it.
Beautiful place. The mountains and the nature there is just phenomenal, and this is part of a longer picture because there's more ending at it, but they cropped it out, but it's huge and it's beautiful, man.
Yeah, it looks
beautiful.
Magnificent.
It's one of those places where you got to go back.
Yeah.
You go there, you see it for the first time and you're amazed, and then you say, you know what, this is a place where I need to come back to.
We're there right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, travelers, you're listening to us out there in cyber world and whatnot. Why don't you hit us up on w4cy.com, Talk4TV, and let us know where you're listening in from. And we'd love to connect with our listeners and know where you're at on this rock. So chime in. Today we've got a great guest. We're gonna talk about how the system is very unfair and how people can manipulate it because they're in power. And Karen Turk, who is the former Mrs. Florida or Miss Florida, she just spent time in prison.
Wow.
Yeah, she was in jail for 30 days, and now she's got some bling on it, and she doesn't mind talking about it. So it says here, Karen Turk is a TV and radio host, well known for her political commentary and her nationally syndicated show Behind the Headlines. Okay, she had recently made her own headlines after being released from federal prison. We're gonna have her on the show, and
nice.
She's got a lot to say. She's obviously a Republican, she's conservative. The funny thing about Karen,
that's why she was in jail.
That's why exactly. Yeah. And she's going to tell you exactly why. She's a huge Trump supporter. She's a huge Roger Stone supporter. She sees it the way we see it.
Okay.
The way we see things. She's very awake. She's very understanding. She knows exactly what's happening and what's going on. And she's not afraid to say it.
Nice.
That's
it.
We need more people.
Sounds like a woman after my own heart.
Exactly, right?
Yeah.
So, we've got her on the show. She's going to talk about her time in prison and the stories. And what's amazing about Karen and our relationship is that we know each other from high school. Back then, we used to hang out and party together. She went to a different school. I went to a different school. But, at times when you go into somebody else's town for a party, you hear about this.
Yeah.
So she came to my house for a few parties. I went to her house for a few parties. And then
good old days.
We hadn't spoken in, 30 some odd years, right? And then suddenly I'm introduced to her husband. I meet her husband first, and then her husband introduces me to her. And she's like, hey, wait a minute, weren't you? And I was, and you were. And that's how we got to know each other. And that's how we kind of
there you go.
Back in Boca.
Excellent.
Of all places.
Of all places.
Of all places.
Why not Boca?
Why not Boca, right? I mean, growing up in New York, I never thought that I would ever live in South Florida, let alone Boca Raton.
Yeah?
Right?
Where did you think you were going to live?
I never thought I would leave New York.
Really?
I always thought that's where it was. Everything began and ended in New York City. And I grew up there. I knew the streets. I knew everything. All my
Yeah.
friends are from New York, right? I never thought I would leave, and I never thought I would live anywhere else.
So interestingly, a friend of mine from Pittsburgh moved to New York 13 years ago, right? We stay in touch on Facebook, right? Whatever. Haven't seen each other. He messages me over the weekend. He's like, dude, I'm in Brickell, you know? So I go down there and see him, and we're talking. He's Israeli, actually.
Uh-huh.
And I'm like, what are you doing down here? Are you down here for work? He's like, no, man, I had to get away. I'm like, well, what do you get away from what? He's like, get away from what? He's like, dude, he's like, I'm out. I'm leaving. And I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, I'm going to move. He's like, it's done for me there.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, the place has absolutely gone nuts.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's insane.
It is. It's not the New York that I know. It's not the New York from 10, 15 years ago. It's a completely different place. And it's a shame what's happening, you know, and people are blind to it. People have no idea what's going on. You know, the leadership there, the governor, the mayor, you know, they're just, in my eyes,
they do know what's going on.
They know.
They're intentionally sinking it.
Absolutely.
They absolutely know what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
They're very calculated. This isn't like Jimmy Carter, like a nice innocent man just didn't know what the hell he was doing, right?
Mm-hmm.
These guys know exactly what they're doing.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So what have you been doing this week?
What have I been doing?
Mm-hmm.
Not much, man.
Yeah.
I've been goofing an awful lot. I'm not gonna lie, you know. I just don't fucking feel like doing anything. I'm at one of those weeks. I've been doing lives and talking and stuff and having conversations with friends, going to the park, you know, and basically just doing as little work as I possibly can.
Mm-hmm.
You know, except for your deals.
Yeah, there you go. Right.
Those are the only deals I'm working on.
Better be working on those.
Actually,
right?
I might have a breakthrough on
okay,
on
very good. We'll talk after
Yeah.
the show. So let us know where you're listening in from. We'd love to hear from you. We didn't go live on Facebook this week because we were going to go live on Facebook. I'm not sure if this is live on Facebook now.
I don't know. We'll check it out at the break.
Yeah. We on Monday, was it that we did it?
Yeah, Monday night.
Yeah. So Monday night, Tom and I, we did a live on Facebook from here, from the studio. And we did some tarot reading cards, right? We, you know, how during our shows, people listen in and we pull some Osho tarot cards and we reveal what's hidden inside of us, inside of you, inside of whoever's done it.
Yeah.
And it was pretty good. We were on for about 40 minutes, and we did 3 or 4 card readings.
At least 4.
Right?
Maybe
Mariella,
5.
Chris, Caesar,
Yeah.
somebody else, right?
Maybe 4 or 5.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it was pretty awesome, right? It was pretty awesome. What's happening, Lisa? Coming at you from Central Oklahoma. Way to go.
Oklahoma. Is that
Central
near
Oklahoma.
Tulsa?
I don't know. Is that near Tulsa? I have a complex in Tulsa, Oklahoma. So we love Tulsa. We love Oklahoma. It's a great market to be in right now. You know?
It is a great market. In fact, Rick told me after the fact that the only reason they didn't cut the loan amount even further was because of Tulsa.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Tulsa's a good market.
Yeah,
and especially where we bought it. You know, they just opened up this park, The Gathering, and it was amazing. A huge park like Central Park they built. They spent $1 billion, and it's about a mile to 2 miles away from our property in Tulsa.
Perfect.
So it was
Did
amazing.
You know that going in?
Yeah. We knew that going in.
Took it.
Absolutely. It's further south, 35 minutes from OKC. That's right, OKC. Woo-hoo. Hey, find us a good property to buy. Find us a 50, 60, 100 unit apartment complex in a good area in OKC with some upside, and then let's buy it.
Buy it, right?
Let's buy it, man.
For a little. How does it work? A little bird dog fee.
Throw a little consulting fee, a little bird dog fee. Maybe give her a little piece of the action. Some equity in the deal, right?
That's a great way to make some money or some side money. People at home, if you're wondering what else you can do.
That is a great side hustle, and it's very minimal output of money. You go and you build relationships with owners of properties and whatnot, and you scour the area, you find the sellers, right? You find the deals, you underwrite them, and see if it's a good deal, and you put it on the contract and flip the contract to somebody else for $5,000-$10,000. All you need is to flip one contract a month.
That's it.
One contract a month at $10,000 a month, you're making over $120,000 a year
with no overhead, bunch of phone calls, and
And you know what? You can even hire people to get you this lead gen in front of the sellers, and they're virtual. So, you can pay them, less than $10 an hour for them to get you in front of the sellers, in front of the owners, and then you build a relationship, you analyze them, and then, you can flip it. Or you stay in, the deal will keep you in, right? So how does that work out? May is asking, how does that work out? It works out great. How does that work out?
The finding a property?
I don't know. That's what I'm trying to figure out. What are you asking, May?
Or Tulsa.
Right. What are you asking? How does that work out? Anyway, so going while May's right. While May is responding. So we were doing this on Monday, and we got some great feedback, and people were excited, and people loved it, and we really read some good cards. So May's asking, how do we get into this? So, you can create what's called the buyer's list and the seller's list, and you go out and you find people who are distressed, right? There's someone always going into foreclosure. There's someone always getting divorced. Someone's going into bankruptcy. They need to sell their property. You can go in, you analyze the deal, you put it under contract, and then you have a buyer that is ready to buy this type of property, and then you just flip them the contract. You make your fee in the middle, they take over, and you go. Now, if you want to learn how to do this, you can reach out to me at success@traveling-investor.com. Email me, okay, and we'll talk. I offer courses on how to do this and how to get started and what you can do with minimal to no money. All right, and then Tom will get the funding for you if you need it. All right. Will you do a reading for me? Oh yeah, look at this.
We can't say no to that.
Can't say no to that. So Lisa, who do you want to pull the card, Tom or myself? And the other person will shuffle. So let us know. Right. So May, it's very easy to start. You find people in your neighborhood. You can start with single family homes, and you find owners that want to sell. Okay, and you put the property, you negotiate, right? Let's say I want to sell my house for $100,000. You negotiate with me to put it on the contract for $90,000, right? Then you turn around and you add $5,000, and you find someone like Tom, for example, who's looking to buy in that neighborhood, and you say, "Hey, Tom, I've got a house for you at $95,000." Boom. Tom says, "Okay." You assign Tom your contract for a $5,000 or $10,000 assignment fee, and that's how you do it. Very, very simple.
And if you don't have the money to buy the 95, you can do it simultaneously and have the closing set up on the same day, where you go to the table, you do the purchase and sell all at once.
Right.
Boom, boom. You're going to pay a fee, obviously, for having someone else's money come in and make the transaction, but it's a way to get it done.
That's right. All right. So Lisa wants you to pull, Tom.
All right.
Wow. All right. So here we go.
What an honor.
Shuffle.
Now, Lisa, where are you at? I'm trying to.
Lisa's in OKC.
Lisa's in OKC?
Right. Yeah. Lisa's in OKC.
Right. All right.
So Lisa, think of a question or something you want more clarification on, right? Send it out, and Tom will be more than happy to pick one, and we can go over it.
This is it.
Right,
in fact, I saw it before you.
There you go. All right. So Lisa, you ready? Tom picked out.
Is there any question?
Do you have a question, Lisa? Do you have anything that you want to put out there, or you want Tom to just go with the card? So in the meantime, we have, there she goes, Shawnee, Oklahoma. That's where she's from.
That's coming next.
All right. So Alexi, what makes that different than being a realtor? A realtor can sit there and do this as well, but you have to notify everyone that you can do it. However, you cannot take a commission, okay? You cannot go to the seller and say, "Hey, I'm going to represent you," if you're not a realtor, and sell your house for you. When you put a house under contract, you now have what's called equitable right. You have the equitable right to then transfer the contract to someone else and make a fee for that. So that's the difference between being a realtor. Okay.
All right.
Yes, I am Wayne looking, but let's do Lisa's reading, and then we'll get back to Becky.
This is Letting Go.
Oh, wow. Look at that. They can't see it because of the background.
Oh, wow. Why?
So let's do it like this because it's a green. So it's a green leaf.
So if you stand in front of it, maybe.
No, that's funny. So it's a green leaf. It's in a pond, and there's water drops coming down. So imagine if this is, no, still not, because it's green. Anyway, it says letting go. Letting go. It's a leaf, and there's a drop. There's a drop of water hanging on for dear life. You could probably see right there. There's that little drop, and that's a green leaf, and the drop is hanging on, and the card is letting go, right? So what do you think, Lisa, that's telling you? Is there anything that you need to let go of? Any ideas? Do you need to let go of the past to move into the future? Let go of a relationship, of a thought, of a mindset, of a job, something of that nature.
Yeah, or an attachment.
What do you see it as?
Just the two things that popped in my head right away were possibly having to let go of a person, whether it be a friend, maybe that's holding you back, a relationship that's not serving you, something there. Or perhaps an idea that you're attached to of I don't want to say this. Maybe something that you want very badly. Maybe kind of let go and go with the flow of something instead of clinging to a notion that you might have about something. I didn't explain that fantastically, but.
What do you see, Lisa? What do you see from it? The letting go aspect of it. Okay. All right. So let's go real quick. We'll answer Becky. Is there schooling involved in this? You can get schooled in it. I offer courses. I offer classes. So reach out, success@traveling-investor.com. Becky, if you'd like to know more about getting educated on how to do this. Wayne, are you looking for properties in any area? I'm looking for properties in Utah, tertiary, secondary markets of Salt Lake and other areas, looking in Wyoming as well, looking in the Southeast, anywhere from Northern Florida all the way up to Virginia, 50 units all the way up to 150 units with good value and where the seller is willing to take a little bit lower price because of what's going on in the COVID market today. So what we're going to do right now, guys, is we're going to go to commercial. We're going to hear from our sponsors. And when we come back, we're going to bring Karen Turk and we'll talk about what life in prison. So stay tuned. All right. We'll be right back.
What you're looking for? How many units? 50 to how many?
You're listening to The Traveling Investor on W4CY Radio. Please take a moment to listen to the sponsors who have a secret message just for you. Don't leave. The best is yet to come. The Traveling Investor will be right back.
I wanna be rich. Oh, I wanna be rich.
Behind everything you're searching for is something you're actually looking for. When you search with the Real Yellow Pages, you get more than a contractor. You get a whole new curb appeal. It's not just getting directions to a dry cleaner with YP.com. It's rescuing an old favorite from the back of the closet. And it's more than finding a locksmith with YP.com on your mobile. It's getting to sleep in your own bed. Whatever it might be, there are more ways to search and more ways to find exactly what you're looking for with the Real Yellow Pages, YP.com, and YP.com on your mobile, only from AT&T.
Hey, this is Rebel Medler. Join me for In Your Face on W4CY.com, Tuesdays at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Fiesta Pet Deli, South Florida's original and only fresh food deli for pets. We carry a full line of products like Bravo, Nature's Variety, and BioComplete. We have FDA-approved meals that are prepared daily. Stop by our brand new store located at Sample Road and the Turnpike in the Festival Flea Market in Pompano, Florida, or call 954-971-2500. Check us out online at www.realfoodforpets.com. If your pet's overweight, suffers from skin problems, or you suspect food allergies, we have the solution. We also carry a large variety of pet strollers, bedding, apparel, collars, leashes, natural chews, and grooming supplies. Veterinarian owned and operated, Fiesta Pet Deli's mission is to help every pet owner have the healthiest pet they possibly can. Call us today for local deliveries or shipping throughout the United States. Call Fiesta Pet Deli today at 954-971-2500. That's 954-971-2500.
You are now tuned into W4CY Radio, entertainment at your fingertips.
I wanna be rich. Oh, I wanna be rich.
Attention listeners, we are preparing once again for takeoff, so please return to your seats as W4CY Radio welcomes back your real estate guru, the traveling investor, Neetson Mosery.
What's happening, travelers? Welcome back to the Traveling Investor Show on W4CY.com. I'm Neetson Mosery, the Traveling Investor, and this is Tom Zames, philosopher extraordinaire. And we have on the line none other than Karen Turk, former Mrs. Florida. What's happening, Karen?
So much is going on. I don't even know where to begin. I'm the epitome of public enemy.
Let me welcome you back to the free world.
Oh, thank you so much. And what a free world I came back to. This is so interesting. Everybody is basically on house arrest with me. I'm actually getting out more than most people are.
Right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
In arrest. On arrest. It's beautiful.
Exactly.
Love it.
So you're the radio and TV radio host of a political commentary behind the headlines, right?
Yep. I do a lot of Republican political commentary. That's really my favorite thing to do. I started my career as a media executive, moved into being in front of the camera, which was something I always wanted to do. Started out doing red carpet events, interviewing celebrities. And then in 2016, I won Mrs. Florida and Donald Trump became president. And the rest is history.
And the rest is history, right?
The rest is history.
Uh-huh. And you're a big Trump supporter. I
am.
You're so much on his side. You even went and tried to, and helped with Roger Stone and get the whole thing. So tell us a little bit about that.
I believe in freedom. That's the bottom line. I'm a first generation American. I believe in the American dream. I believe in our, two-party system that we've always had that has worked very well for us as a free America. Mm-hmm. And I'm watching that sort of, go to the bottom of the barrel at this point. I mean, the Democratic Party is imploding. Our politics aren't what they once were. The world has changed, and watching that evolution has really made me more passionate to get up and stand up for my rights as an American and stand up for freedom. And there are so many of us that have tried to stand up for freedom and now have become the target of political attacks. And, a lot of people want to look at it and say, label you a conspiracy theorist or label you a certain way. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, we're all in this together. And everybody right now should be rising up and should be afraid of the amount of control that the Democrats and our government want to enact on us. And Donald Trump is fighting that. He's fighting for our freedom and he's fighting for America. And the reason that I wanted him to be president so badly is I knew that he would be someone who would stand up to the swamp. And he's done it successfully, and he's still doing it today. But it's a long, hard fight. We're all in it together.
Isn't it amazing how much shit that the Democrats have thrown at Trump since he started? And so far, nothing has stuck. Nothing sticks.
Nothing ever will.
Right?
He's King Midas.
Russia, then the impeachment, and now COVID. And then, I'm sure they have a hand in this, like murder hornets things that are coming now, the size of like little planes, So it's amazing how much shit. Now, on the flip side, you got to ask yourself if they would take that energy that they put into trying to bring him down, and instead of trying to bring him down, they would put that energy into coming up with solutions together and working together and being a unified team. How much more could he accomplish?
That's not their agenda, though.
No, it's not their agenda.
They don't want freedom. They're anti-freedom.
They're anti-freedom. They're anti-America.
How can you work together if one wants freedom?
Right. So, Karen, we have a question here for Lisa Ryan from Oklahoma City says she loves Trump too. Way to go, Lisa.
Oh, good. Excellent.
And Odem is asking you, what did you go to jail for? And are you on house arrest right now?
I am technically on house arrest right now. Thankfully, my crime was related to me personally and not related to my business. So I am still working, and I'm very lucky that even at this time of crisis, the news doesn't stop. So my business has actually been pretty busy. So unlike a lot of other people that have been really negatively affected by this quarantine and small businesses that are being hurt, I'm one of the lucky ones right now. And I feel very blessed because of that, because there are a lot of business owners that are suffering. And that's another thing that we'll get into, I'm sure, which is this is hurting the people that actually employ 55% of the American worker. We are actually trashing what Donald Trump has built. And the one thing that most people can agree on both sides of the aisle is that our president has done a really good job with this economy. And this COVID crisis is exactly the opportunity for the Democrats to take a shot at that. And it's being used as a political agenda for them. It's being used as to support their narrative, which is very, very wrong. Everybody should be upset about this. I don't care if you like Donald Trump or you don't. You should be upset that the Democrats are not representing the constituents that they should be representing. They are, again, working for the people. But I actually went to jail for a misdemeanor Social Security charge, which stemmed from a fight that I had with the nursing home that was neglecting my mother. They found me guilty of misappropriating funds. I actually did take a plea deal. And just to address that for a second, because a lot of people say, well, why did you plead guilty? Why would you do that if you weren't guilty? And the truth is people take plea deals every single day. And to fight the federal government can cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. So it was in my best interest to take a misdemeanor plea deal for a $17,000 misdemeanor. And at the time I took that plea deal, I thought that I would end up with 6 months of probation. That is what I was told was going to be my punishment. And that sounded reasonable. And I said, okay, I'll move on. I'll get past this and I'll live my life. But it ended up being a media circus. The nursing home made sure that, it was. They worked with the prosecutor. The prosecutor got up at my sentencing and lied. I think I counted 6 times total. And I did file an appeal after that for my sentence. But in the meantime, I ended up having to serve 30 days in a maximum security federal prison. And yeah, I've come out of it stronger. And quite frankly, I'm actually thankful for the experience because it's given me a new perspective on a lot of things. And one of the things that I definitely have a renewed perspective for is how our justice system is not really serving the people any longer. There's a lot of corruption. There's a lot of things that are wrong. And I want to be a part of that change and a part of exposing that. But yeah, saying that when it comes out of my mouth, it sounds crazy that I was in a maximum security prison. I never had a speeding ticket, never been accused of anything in my life. And here I am with this situation. I mean, 20 years, no speeding tickets in 20 years. Maybe when I was a kid for 20 years, I had a completely clean record, never been charged with a crime, never nothing. And a misdemeanor Social Security charge landed me in a federal prison. And I do feel that in large part it was a political witch hunt. It was because I am an outspoken political commentator on the right side of the aisle. I support our president. I support my friend Roger Stone. Roger Stone still did nothing wrong. And I will continue to stick with my convictions and continue to fight for justice. And they can throw darts at me and they can string me up like a criminal and I will fight back.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, you're definitely proven that.
Any altercation? Any altercations?
With who? With the prosecutor or the Democrats or in prison?
No, in prison.
Which ones?
Like you see on TV? I don't know. I'm all
It was very Orange is the New Black, and I actually never watched the show. I knew of the show, but I didn't watch it before going in. I basically didn't want to know what it was going to be like. I thought about hiring a prison coach, and then I went back on that and said, you know what, I'm just going to go in cold. Coach, put me in cold. I'm ready to play. So I went ahead and I went in, and I treated it, like an opportunity. And I knew I only had 30 days. So that was the light at the end of the tunnel. And I decided I was going to go in and I was going to learn as much as possible. And I was going to immerse myself in the culture and find out what was really going on and treat it like, an investigative journalist assignment. And that was exactly what I did. And I met some of the most interesting human beings that I've ever met in my life. I made friends with people that I would never meet anywhere else.
Right.
I had a roommate that was there for manslaughter who I really learned to like. I mean, you get outside of what the label is on these people as criminals, and you get to know them as human beings, and you realize that you have more in common with them than you have not in common. It's just like, people on both sides of the aisle, the Democrats and Republicans, we need to start focusing on the things that unite us, not what divides us, and we would be a better world. Absolutely. And I went in there and I didn't have a single altercation with a single person. I didn't have one single person that treated me badly that wasn't an employee of the federal government.
Right. The federal government employees treated you worse than the
Horrid.
mass murderers and whatnot that were in prison with you.
And the way that they treat these women it's horrific. I mean, sure. I think I was actually, in some ways I was treated worse, and I was profiled as an attractive white woman. It's reverse racism. It is what it is. Call me what you want. It's the truth. There were guards that definitely treated me because I was a white woman a certain way. They profiled me immediately and were just as nasty as they could be. But I also watched elderly women that were in there, a 75-year-old woman have a guard screaming in her face, calling her names when she was complying with the rules. I was woken up with the rest of our cells in the middle of the night by a big male guard screaming, "Get your punk asses up," when we were locked in our cells. I mean, there was absolutely no reason for us to be verbally degraded. And of course, before I left, I pointed everything out that I saw to the warden. And I'm still waiting on that phone call for him to discuss it with me.
Wow.
Don't hold your breath.
Yeah, no, I won't. And, I saw guards do things that, you really, when I tell it, I've been accused before in telling these stories that people say, oh, she watched this on TV. The truth is, the TV is actually mirroring reality, because when you're in there, there are drugs, there are guards bringing in contraband for the prisoners. There are girls that are having sex with guards, according to their stories. They're in relationships with them. There's the things that you would expect. There are, definitely lesbian relationships. There are people that are in there for 5 or 10 or 15 years. And yeah, they create families and they create relationships. And, God bless them for finding a way to be a community. You got to see that this is their home now. This is how they live. You become immersed in the culture. You become institutionalized. But what I really saw was women who were being very badly abused at the hands of our federal government. And I don't think this is the president's fault. I don't think this is Bill Barr's fault. I think this is at the level of the Bureau of Prisons, and we have some serious issues that need serious reform. And maybe the answer is to come in and have some companies privatize these prisons. We've started to do it, and maybe we need to expand it, because the federal government is doing a very bad job at it.
But but on the flip side of that, when you privatize the prisons, doesn't it make an incentive for these people to go out and to arrest more people on bullshit charges just to fill up the prisons, right?
Our federal government's doing a pretty damn good job at that. So, they seem to have a template in place. I mean, I met a lot of people that were in there for gang and drug charges. And I'm not an attorney, but, I looked at all of these cases, and I'm a pretty smart human being, and I lined them all up. And to me, it seemed that our government has a template for how they prosecute these drug conspiracy cases. And it's almost like they just crank them out. And I truly believe that they are preying on people who are needy within our communities, who are disadvantaged, who are going to turn to drugs because it's the only way that they can economically survive. And our federal government is basically trafficking them and using them as a commodity in our prison system. So, that's possible. It could happen in private prisons too, but our federal government's already doing it.
Sure. Do you think that the correctional facilities today are rehabilitating prisoners and making them, see a different way? Because, you mentioned that when you're in there, you're part of a community, you're institutionalized, you know the ways, the laws of where you're living now. And then once you're taken out of that and you're put back into society, into normal society, you really don't know how to behave. You don't know what's going on. Do you think that they're doing anything to help the prisoners get back into society and become a positive force?
No, they're blowing hot air. It's all a facade. They're doing absolutely nothing. The facility I was in their defense is a detention center. It's a maximum security facility in downtown Miami. It's not a facility that's meant to house most inmates long term. However, I had women that I was in there with that were indoors in this facility for up to 10 years. And that is the fault of our federal government. And with the facility that I was in, there was very little programming besides the GED program. There was a drug program, which consisted of do this workbook and you'll get a $30 credit on your commissary. So that was about the extent of the education within this facility. And obviously, everyone wanted to do the workbook and get the $30 in their commissary. But, were they invested in the program? Absolutely not. Was it rehabilitative? Absolutely not. I actually came up with the tagline, it's humiliation over rehabilitation. That's what I saw. And it was sad. I mean, it was definitely not what I thought. And, maybe there are some camps and some other programs throughout the country that are doing a better job of rehabilitating inmates. But especially in these maximum security facilities and these facilities that are basically housing people from our most disadvantaged communities, they're doing absolutely nothing. I, as a matter of fact, think that they want these people there because they are strictly a commodity that pays the bills, keeps the lights on, and keeps the business going. And it's sad. I mean, it's definitely not what I expected. But I have to say the people there were better than I expected.
Really?
And I learned a lot about humanity being there. I mean, that was, I think, the one thing that I really walked away. I mean, I went in and there were a lot of people that were scary. I came in and I thought, what am I going to do? I'm going to be friends with the 4 people that scare me the most. And I went in and I made friends with people that I would never meet on the outside, that I had nothing in common with. And I found the things that we had in common. We're mothers, we have families, we have parents, and all of a sudden, when you open to somebody up as a human being, you look at them totally differently. And I didn't care at that point what they were charged with. I cared about how I could affect them on that day, listening to their story. And I heard the same stories over and over again. Yeah, I sold drugs, but I had no choice, because once you leave and you're branded a felon and you live in one of these communities where drugs are so prevalent and there's no other way to make a living, you're going to sell drugs.
Sure.
Let's call it what it is. And the government's giving them no help to get rehabilitated. There's no programs to help them get a decent job or go back to work. And one of my closest friends in there actually had gone to work and had found herself a job and is almost 50 years old. But she's been in the system so much that, she's a target. They're looking at her every day. And she ended up being brought in on one of these conspiracy charges. And she claims she's innocent. And I believe her. I believe she got shook down and, was taken in because there were other people that they could bring along for the ride that she was connected to in this neighborhood. And the federal government didn't appreciate the fact that, she had rehabilitated herself and was, living an honest life and doing an honest business. They cared about taking down the 3 drug dealers down the street, and she was the catalyst to that.
Wow.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, I'm a white collar criminal too. Imagine that, I ended up with a $17,000 misdemeanor. I ended up in this crazy place, but I think it's something we all really need to think about, because I think that sometimes we get so caught up in our own fortunate lives that, we think about poverty and we think about helping other people. I really never thought about how I could help a prisoner. It wasn't on my radar screen. I was not an advocate for prison reform. It was something that I had absolutely no knowledge of. And coming in there and seeing why these people are in the system and why they're perpetually in and out of the system opened my eyes to a real need that we have to understand that we're not so different than these people, and that if we don't advocate for change, we are really going to have a really screwed up society, as if we didn't have enough of a screwed up society already.
Sure. In India, they did a test. They went into some of the most dangerous prisons in India, and they took the worst criminals, right? And they made them go through this 10-day Vipassana silent meditation, where you sit in silence for 10 days and you're just with your thoughts and you let them come and go and you see, and at the end of the day, there's a guide that talks to you and leads you through these, through what's going on. And the impact that it had on them was exponential. You see these hardcore murderers that would slice you in a heartbeat without even breaking a sweat, without even thinking twice. They would stab you, slit your throat, rape you, do whatever, whatever it took. These guys are walking out after 10 days crying like babies and completely changed, completely and utterly changed. And they have a program where, I don't know if it's still running now, but many, many years ago, that if you would go through the Vipassana program in the detention, in your prison, that after you got out, they would evaluate you. And if you were, if you were rehabilitated, if you were, well again, and they would let you back out into society. And from what I know, no one that's gone through that program has gone out and committed any other crimes.
Amazing. Listen, I don't think I could have gotten through what I got through if it wasn't for yoga. That's right. The truth. I don't think that I would have been such an emotional mess through this experience. And that was the one thing that was my go-to, is when I sat in a holding cell for 5.5 hours where it was 45 degrees and I didn't know what was going to happen to me next. Child's pose was my go-to, and I just meditated and tuned out. And I wouldn't have had that skill had it not been for doing yoga over the past 2 years. And I actually did a lot of yoga in there and had a lot of the girls doing yoga with me. And I believe in the power of meditation and the power of the mind. And, what I said when I came in here is I had a choice. I went in there with the outlook that, hey, I have 30 days. There's a light at the end of the tunnel. How am I going to make something positive out of this? And that's the mindset you have to have, but I think it's very difficult. I think these people are faced with a lot of hardship in their life. The being in there isn't so strange to a lot of these people. It's something that they've seen happen to their brother, their mother, their sister, their cousin. And it's a part of the lifestyle. We have to figure out how to break that cycle.
Right.
And I'm not going to pretend that I have the answers or know what that is, but I just watched our federal government not only completely screw up my case, completely railroad a lot of other Republican conservatives, including, Donald Trump, if they could have him, definitely Roger Stone and so many others. But I saw our federal system failing the most needy population in our country firsthand. And that to me is really eye-opening that, we're also focused on a day-to-day, how do we make positive change? This is a really big problem.
Sure, absolutely.
So what percentage of inmates would you say should be there, right, are a danger to society versus the ones that have no business being there? What number would that be?
I would say maybe 30% of the people, at least the women in the women's unit, I think 30% of them are viably dangerous human beings who probably need to be, followed and monitored throughout their lifetime to some degree, and I don't necessarily think it's because these people are bad people. I think in some ways, a lot of them are a product of society and in the environment, and they know no different. But I also think being in there teaches you to be a better criminal. There are things that I learned in there that have made me more street savvy than I could have ever been in my entire life. I mean, these people are survivalists. They have to be. And it teaches you to work through the loopholes of the system. We're not teaching people how to survive on the outside in a normal society. We're teaching them how to be criminals when they leave. Right. So, it's the chicken or the egg here. I mean, you can't, I'm apprehensive even using the 30% number because I don't know how many of those people would be who they are if it wasn't for the ineffectiveness of the system that got them there in the first place. But, there were a lot of people that, I would be validly afraid of if I met them, in a dark alley and they were brandishing a gun, right. I would hand them everything I had and, hope that they didn't kill me because, they had done things like that before, but that definitely wasn't the norm. Right. The norm of what you had in there were people who were involved in some sort of a drug crime. Whether it was smuggling or being involved with the wrong people or, selling drugs themselves, was a lot of that. There was some, my friend who was in there for manslaughter, once I got to know her and I heard the story, I kind of thought, well, kind of makes sense. I mean, she grew up on the streets. You grow up on the streets. It's not where I grew up. It's not my neighborhood, but in that neighborhood, there is a culture. And, somebody came after a family member of hers and they got in a fight, and a girl pulled a knife and she pulled a knife and she stabbed this girl to death, but she was trying to protect somebody else. Like, did it go too far? Yeah. Is it kind of relatable? Yeah, I guess if you grow up in that kind of environment where violence is a regular thing, you become a product of that environment. And it was relatable, although wrong. But she's serving 80 years and, she'll get out and hopefully she'll have a chance at a better life. But, I think about these people every day, and I think that most of them have no shot of not coming back to jail. And that's our failure. That's not the failure of these people. That's our failure to rehabilitate them and give them an opportunity to come out of prison and be able to have a decent life. There has to be these halfway houses or a crock too. I mean, the system's ridiculous.
Mm-hmm. It is. Amara asks if they have yoga in the prison system. No, Amara, Karen is just practicing yoga in her normal life, and she practiced it while in prison as well so that she can let her mind go free.
Maybe they should have it. Why not yoga?
Oh, they should. They should have yoga.
Right?
They should have meditation classes. They should have energy healing classes. They should have tarot cards.
Which shows they don't want.
I need a card. I was very jealous too, watching backstage while I was watching the readings, and I definitely wanted a reading for sure.
You want a reading? Okay.
Of course I do.
All right. So Tom will shuffle. So you have a question? You have anything that you want to, a thought that you want to pull on, or you want a general?
What's the question?
I would like to know. I don't know, how specific should I be, Tom? I mean, how specific can I be? I don't want to ruin the magic here.
As specific as you want. This, these are Osho cards, so they bring out what's already in us.
Perfect. Well, I would like to know. I want to know, what's the next step? I'm writing a book, so I do have a book that's coming out here shortly. I wrote the first book basically the day before I went to prison. I wrote the last chapter. The book ends with the cell door closing, and I kind of want to know what this next couple of months is going to hold for me.
Okay.
You just finished the book?
I finished my first book. I'm working on the second book. The second book is about the 30 days in prison. The first book is what got me there.
Okay.
So they're both really interesting. The first one is a lot of exposure of corruption in our court system, a lot of the backstory of how I ended up being charged with this crime and what happened, a lot about my mom, about growing up in New Jersey, about what makes me a conservative Republican, which, for every reason, I probably should have been a Democrat if you would have asked my parents, because they were lifelong Democrats. But it's a lot about that. It's a lot about politics, about my political friends, about Roger Stone, about the people that I've represented over the years in the media. And then the second book picks up where that leaves off, and that's with the cell door closing.
So you want to, over the next 2 months, you want to know what is in store for you with the book specifically, or just in life in general?
Specifically with the book, I'd like to know with this whole COVID thing. I mean, am I going to be able to do a book tour? What's going to happen? Are we going to be past this? Are we all going to be quarantined? Is it going to open back up?
What are your thoughts on this quarantine? We have 2 minutes left, so let's do it.
I think it's a ploy. I'm very upset about it. I'm upset about how it's affecting our economy. I certainly don't want to get sick. I don't want anybody to get sick. But, there comes a point where you have to say to yourself, hey, we got to wash our hands. We got to be careful. But we can't stop progress, and we can't stop America from moving. And that's exactly what we're doing. And I don't think it's productive. So what is it?
The Rebel.
That's me. That's definitely me. That's me all the way.
You see the chains on the bottom? They're unbroken.
I love it.
They're broken.
Wow.
Right?
Divine.
So you've got the eagle, you've got the fire, the snake. I mean, this card is full of symbolism, but basically you
A
know,
little cocky look on the face too.
very
I
cocky
love that.
look, you know. So from what I'm taking from this is that your books are going to cause a lot of ripples, a lot of waves, a lot of shaking up. You're going to find a lot of things that we thought are going to change because of these books, right? The chains are going to be broken. It's going to snap. There's a lot of things going on here. A lot of things I'm getting. What are your thoughts? We have a minute left.
I like it. Yeah, I think you got it. I think you're really good at this, Nitsan. I mean, I kind of see I have that fire. I want to fight the serpent. I want to break the chains. I want to rebel. And, you know, I've always been a rebel, but I'm a stronger rebel now. And I actually am very thankful for this experience, as crazy as it might sound, because this is going to shape my journey and I'm going to be able to make change because of it. And I'm really thankful for that.
Awesome. Well, we're out of time.
I can't believe it.
Stay on. I'm going to tell you my thing after we're done here.
All right, guys. Well, travelers, it's been awesome. Another great show. I'm going to leave you with these words. May the road rise up to meet you. May the wind always be at your back. And may the sunshine warm upon your face and rain fall soft upon your fields. Until next week, travel safe, travel well. I'm Nitsan Mosry, the traveling investor, and this is Tom Zames, philosopher extraordinaire. We'll see you somewhere on Spaceship Earth. Take it easy, guys.
Got rid of it.
Secret message just for you. Don't leave. The best is yet to come. The Traveling Investor will be right. Wow, what a great show. Are you excited to learn the untold secrets of how to get wealthy? Then tune in next Thursday and every Thursday at 1 p.m. Eastern right here on W4CY Radio. You too can learn how to become a traveling investor. If you missed any part of this episode or want to hear it again, go to the Traveling Investor podcast on iHeartRadio. You can listen to all past episodes on demand 24/7. Next week's episode will take us somewhere new and exciting, so don't miss it. Thank you for listening.
I wanna